Stubbs.
All right. Thank you. Please be seated. You'll be back on the record. Court took a brief recess to cool it down in here. We were in the middle of direct examination of Detective Stubbs. And Mr. Wood, I think you had just admitted 17 and 18 into evidence. It looks like you have 18 on the easel right now. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You may proceed with your direct examination.
Your Honor, I wonder if I could adjust that so that I can see easel as well.
That's fine. Do you need to scoot it back towards the wall?
I think so. Counsel, please.
Yes, thank you.
Judge, can you see?
I can.
Your Honor, due to the nature of what Detective Stubbs is going to be testifying to, we'd ask that he be able to stand next to the easel and put on a mask.
That's fine. Mr. Wood, why don't you don yours while he does that?
Yeah.
There's a laser pointer as well, Mr. Wood. I don't know if you've explained that to Detective Stubbs. Okay. Hold up here. Do we, if he's going to be touching the exhibit, why don't we put some gloves on the witness here if there's going to be anybody else that's touching it? There's some right here. It's fine.
All right, Detective, now that Exhibit 18 has been published, can you, and since we took a break, can you just briefly summarize again what Exhibit 18 is and how you prepared it?
So this was an aerial photograph taking of this apartment complex, April 2000 is when the photograph was taken. What we did was we took, if you will, we made this table of contents here, which I numbered 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9. Those numbers correlate with the red triangles that I have placed on this map in 2 different locations and represent from the Google documents the location services for the Homer J. Maximus account. These latitude and longitudes correlate with these triangles. Now, also accompanied on this map, along with those records from the Excel spreadsheet, which, as I mentioned, 28,000 plus pages. The number here, in reference number, on the far left column of that Excel spreadsheet is the quick reference 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on down the page. This number correlates with that line item, if you will. Next are the coordinates that Google provided for us. Next to that is the date and time that these locations were logged through Google on that account. And the very last line over here is margin or radius of error from these findings from Google.
Okay. And are all the margins of error the same?
No. Depending on the one, they range, as you can see here, if you can see, from 4 meters and a couple at 15-meter radius of error.
Okay. On Exhibit 18, why did you focus on the coordinates you focused on?
Mainly because of two things. These are two residents where Alex Cox resided in 107 and that Lori Vallow Daybell resided in 175.
Okay. Was there anything significant about the dates?
As far as the dates go, 1, 2, and 3 are dated the 9th of September, 2019, in the early morning hours of that day.
What is the timestamp on, can you point to pin number 3?
Here in the parking lot.
And what is the timestamp on that?
Number 3 is 02:42 hours and 2 seconds.
Okay. And what was the date on that?
That was the September 9th,
Okay.
2019.
And can you point to pin number 2?
Pin number 2 is almost in the same location in the parking lot.
And what is the timestamp on that?
Pin number 2 is 02:42 and 11 seconds.
Okay. And can you point at pin number 1?
Same location at this triangle here.
Okay. And what is the timestamp on that?
That would be 03:37:22.
Okay. What is the margin of error on pin number 3?
Pin number 3 is at 4 meters.
What is the margin of
Judge,
error?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. He said 4 meters or 4D?
4.
4, thank you.
What is the margin of error on pin number 2?
4 meters.
And what is the margin of error on pin number 1?
4 meters.
Okay. Now, let's talk really quickly about the timestamp. When you receive Google records, are they in mountain time?
No.
How is the time relayed on the Google location data?
So on the Excel spreadsheet, they would be in UTC time.
Okay.
UTC here during that time of year is UTC minus 6 hours.
Okay, thank you. Can you point at pin number 8? Actually, I'm going to ask you to point to pin number 9 first.
Pin number 9 is over in this area here.
Okay. What is the timestamp on pin number 9?
Pin number 9 would be September 6th, 2019 at 2:56 a.m. and 13 seconds.
Okay, and what's the margin of error or radius of error on that?
15 meters.
Okay. And can you give us the same information on pin number 8?
Pin number 8 is the 14th of September 2019 at 01:21 and 43 seconds in the a.m.
And what is the margin or radius of error on pin number 8?
That again is 15 meters.
All right. Your Honor, I'd ask to publish State's Exhibit 17 at this time.
No objection.
Now on the easel is Exhibit 17, is that correct, Mr. Wood?
Yes. And again, just to clarify for the record, due to taking a break, can you just briefly summarize again what State's Exhibit 17 is?
This is an aerial photograph of the Chad Daybell property.
Okay, and where is that located?
202 East 1900 South in Fremont County.
And did you prepare that summary in the same manner as State's Exhibit 18?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How many data points have you plotted on that summary?
4 data points.
Okay. Can you point to data point or location number 5?
Location number 5 is in this area here.
Okay. What is the timestamp on that?
Timestamp of September 9th, 2019 at 9:21 and 36 seconds in the AM.
Okay, what's the margin of error on that?
That would be 6 meters.
Can you point to location number 4?
This area here,
Mm-hmm. What is the timestamp on that?
timestamp of September 9th, 2019 at 10:57 and 03 seconds in the AM,
And what's the margin of error?
5 meters.
Okay. Detective, can you point at location 7 on that summary?
Here,
Yes. What is the timestamp on location 7?
timestamp of 09:56 and 28 seconds in the AM,
Okay. What's the margin of error on that?
4 meters.
And finally, can you point to location number 6?
Number 6 is in the same area, general area.
And what is the timestamp on that?
9/23/2019 at 10:02:19 hours in the AM,
And what's the margin of error?
3 meters.
Okay. Thank you. Detective, I can take your seat again.
Detective, when you've been seated, you can take off your glove and mask if you'd like.
Detective, you testified about the contents of the Homer J. Maximus Google location data. Are there other data points located on the Daybell property in that in the data that was given to you on your search warrant return?
There are additional data points in the area, yes.
And are there additional data points near or on the near the Lori Vallow apartment at 565 Pioneer Road?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason you didn't map out all the data points on the Homer J. Maximus Google location data?
Well, the reason being is because the file is so massive that it would take, I can't even imagine how long it would take to put all the waypoints on a map.
Okay. Say has no further questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
Thank you, Judge. Initially, when you went out there for the interview of Miss Vallow, and I believe that was in November, is that right?
That is correct.
And the date in November was what, officer?
The 26th?
Okay. Now, the purpose of that initial visit was a welfare check, was it not?
It was.
Okay, so it was a preliminary matter, is that correct?
Yes.
And you're a detective with which law enforcement agency?
The Rexburg Police Department.
And as the Rexburg Police Department, is it your policy that even for preliminary matters, such as a welfare check, you were required to have your body cam on?
It is not a requirement. However, since I've been issued a body camera, I always make it a practice to wear it when I go to talk to people outside the office.
And that is because you want to accurately and correctly reflect what someone says to you. Wouldn't that be the case?
That's right.
And you want to accurately provide a record of what was transpired because people make mistakes, correct?
Yes, people can make mistakes.
And police officers are obviously people as well, and police officers make mistakes when they're in the course of doing an investigation. There are times when they may not recite things exactly the way they are. So a camera is a tool to help you do that. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think that's more testimony than it is a question.
Mr. Pryor, what's your question?
the question is that it's a good practice to have a body cam and record a conversation when you're interviewing any witness, correct?
That is my personal feeling for me.
And you're doing that out of experience, correct?
Correct.
Now, there was some previous testimony about Mr. Cox residing in Unit 175. Do you have any information that suggests he was residing in Unit 175?
I don't have that knowledge whether he was or wasn't residing, other than my body cam footage saying that he was there.
Okay. And during the time that you went there on the 26th of November, Mr. Daybell wasn't there, correct?
That day, I never saw for myself Mr. Daybell.
And there was an acknowledgement that her brother was there, though, correct?
That is correct.
And then on the second trip, I don't recall seeing whether there was an acknowledgement that Mr. Cox was there. Was he there again the second time, do you recall?
I do not know.
Okay. All right. But again, you didn't see Mr. Daybell there, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And your belief is that when you went to Unit 175, it was because you believed that was Lori Vallow's residence. Is that right?
That is right.
Okay. And your data points seem to suggest that you're looking at Unit 175 and Unit 107.
Correct.
And there's a reason for that, is there not?
Yes.
That's because somebody lives in Unit 107, right?
We believed one of the family members lived in
And
107.
who would that be?
Alex Cox.
And who lives in 175?
Lori Vallow.
Okay. So just so we put this into terms that I can understand, when you're talking about 4 meters, you're talking approximately 12 feet.
Approximately.
And when you're talking about 15 meters, you're talking about 45 feet.
Approximately.
Okay. I am curious, and this is in the way of an explanation. When you're talking UC time minus 6, give me an example of what UC time minus 6 is. It looks like the clock says 3:05. So what would be an example of that?
Well, if you will, there's a point where they actually start recording time. And as you go through time zones, you gain or lose whatever an hour from the starting point of, if you will, a time starting.
Okay,
And then, because we're in mountain time,
right.
at that time of year, you take the general time and you subtract 6 hours from that.
So when you say 242 in pin number 2, in this example, and it's 242, do we go back 6 hours earlier?
No, you would add 6. From UTC time, you minus 6 to get to our time
If I
zone.
could ask you to go back up to the exhibit, would you mind doing that for me?
Mr. Pryor, Exhibit 17 or Exhibit 18?
Well, I'm going to start with 17, then we'll go to 18 after that. Because I think 17 is still up there, is it not, officer? All right, so that one is number...
This is 17.
That's what I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke. So let's talk with pin number 5. On pin number 5, you said it was on September 9th.
Correct.
And you put down the time as 9:21 a.m. Is that correct, officer? All right. And then you put down the time of variance or margin of error, I guess is the appropriate term, based on what I've read, and margin of error is 6 meters, right?
Correct.
So is that actually 9:21 a.m. on September 9th, or is there a additional time that needs to be added to that?
It was, in our time, 9:21.
Okay.
However, when you talk to a carrier of a phone or Google or whoever else, they generally send you this layout in UTC time. So depending on if you're on the East Coast, if you're here, wherever you are, you can do that margin and deduct those hours we're at.
So you're the one who came up with the calculation as to what these proximate times are, is that correct?
The only thing I did was minus UTC time -6 to get our local time.
Okay, all right. And then again, on number 7, pin number 7, what was the time on that one?
09:56 and 28 seconds in the AM.
And those points that you're talking about reflect a device that was owned by Alex Cox, is that correct?
The Google states belong to Alex Cox.
Okay. And on the items that were set on the house, or excuse me, the apartments, those times and those pins were a reflection of a device that was owned by Alex Cox, is that correct?
The same device.
Okay, all right. Thank you, officer. Go ahead, you can return to your seat.
Can you tell me what the range of summaries is in this particular case? In other words, the start time for which range you subpoenaed Google and the end time for which range you ended? You're reflecting about 28,000 pages of documents. I'd like to know what the range is, the start range and the stop range.
You know, I would have to actually look at the search warrant again to be sure of the dates we requested.
Well, my recollection is we admitted that, did we not, as exhibit?
Search warrant 2019-86.
Okay. Do you have at least a recollection of what it may be?
From what I remember, and first part of September
Okay.
through December,
Through December?
through when we served the search warrant.
Okay. All right. So we don't know how many times from September through December that those devices were on the Daybell property then, correct?
We don't have a total number at this time, no.
Are you working on that?
There is things being worked on at this time,
Are
yes.
you working on that?
I am working with members of the FBI CAS team to come up with those numbers.
Okay, so in other words, we're going to, at some point in the future, there'll be a complete analysis of every date that this particular device or devices was not only in the apartment, but also on the Daybell property. That'll be forthcoming, I can assume that, correct?
Well, I can't answer for exactly what the CAS team is doing, but they are doing additional analysis on those times and those coordinates.
Okay. And that information has been preserved in the event there needs to be someone else taking a look at that as well, correct?
That is correct.
Did you have an occasion to talk with Mr. Daybell at any time?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Did you have an occasion to talk to Mr. Daybell at any time?
No.
You hesitated. Why is that?
I was trying to remember if I had said stand right over here or whatever while he was in the kitchen. I don't exactly recall.
Okay, so there's no recorded conversation or body cam of Mr. Daybell that you have in your possession. Is that correct?
I did have my body camera on that day as well.
Okay.
Have I reviewed that as of the last little bit? I have not.
Have you provided that to the prosecuting attorney?
I believe he has copies.
Okay. All right. Judge, I have nothing else at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wood, any redirect?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Detective Stubbs. You can be excused from the witness stand. That exhibit, which number exhibit is that? 16. Thank you. Are there any other exhibits there in the witness cubicle? Okay. We'll allow cleaning to take place of the witness cubicle Mr. Wood, who do you intend on calling as your next witness?
Your Honor, Spencer Ramel for the state. The state would next call Wynn Hill.
Say that one more time.
Wynn Hill?
Wynn Hill?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Wood, can I have the bailiff put that exhibit backwards again?
Yes.
You can leave that on there, Mr. Bailiff, if you just want to turn it around backwards and set it against the wall. Mr. Hill, if you'll come forward, stand in front of this witness chair, raise your right arm and face the clerk. Stand right there in front of the plexiglass and look at the clerk right here. Raise your right arm.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You can be seated here in the witness chair, Mr. Hill. Once you're seated, Mr. Hill, you may take off your mask. Mr. Wood, you may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. And again, Spencer Ramel for the record.
Mr. Ramel, I apologize. You may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. Can I have you state your full name and spell that name for the record, please?
My name is Wynn Hill, Wynnhill,
Mr. Hill, where are you employed?
at Brigham Young University, Idaho.
And how long have you been employed at BYU, Idaho?
Just over 14 years.
And what is your current role at the university?
I currently serve as the Dean of Students there.
Does BYU, Idaho use a student management system?
We do.
Are you familiar with that system?
I am.
How so?
I work in the student life area, and so we have a student life management system that connects to the larger student management system.
Mr. Hill, will you scoot a little closer to the microphone?
Sure.
Pull that microphone down a little bit and aim it right at your chin.
There we go.
And then up at your mouth. That's great.
Great.
What information does your student management system hold?
It holds information from the application process and other student enrollment information on a student.
Does your system allow you to look up current students attending BYU, Idaho?
Yes.
Does your system allow you to look up past students
Yes.
that have attended BYU, Idaho? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Does your system allow you to look up individuals who have applied but are not currently attending BYU,
Yes.
Idaho?
It does.
Did you check your registration system for a specific individual who requested Rexford Police Department in relation, to a missing persons investigation?
I did.
Who was that individual you checked for?
I believe they gave me the name of Tylee Ryan, Tylee Cox, Lori Vallow. I checked all of those names with the date of birth of 9/24/02.
And can you tell me the date that you did that?
I can. It was February 28th
And can you
of
tell me-
2020. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where you were when you checked it?
I believe I was in my office
On campus?
on campus. Yes.
And what was the result of that check?
Yeah, we couldn't find any information on that person.
So it's your testimony that names Tylee Ryan, Tylee Cox, and Lori Vallow with the corresponding date of birth, September 24th, 2002, has never applied to BYU, Idaho, or has never been a student at BYU, Idaho.
According to our records.
Judge, that's
Right.
all I have.
No questions, Judge, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. You can be excused from the witness stand. Mr. Ramel, may this witness be excused from the court.
From the state's perspective, yes, Judge.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Hill, for appearing. Mr. Ramel, you can call the next witness as well.
Your Honor, I'll Taking care of the next witness, the state calls Melanie Gibb.